Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. Today's video, I am finishing my list and my ranking of all the Pixar movies that have come out, which there are 26 in all. So I am covering my top 3 favorite Pixar films here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hello everybody, hope everybody's doing well here on a Monday afternoon. Hope you had a great weekend and all that. Yeah, starting a new week here. And I am finally getting through this list of my favorite Pixar, or ranking every single Pixar movie and getting to my absolute favorites here. I got 3 movies left to talk about. And obviously these 3 are just absolute amazing films, some of my favorite films of all time. One maybe fairly surprising, the other 2 I think are pretty common at the top of people's lists, and I am no stranger to that or no different to that. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know much more to say, but get to number 3 on my list. And I had to change these things around because as I watch them, I keep moving stuff around, and I finally kind of stopped on this. I thought was maybe the best, but it's hard. Any of these 3 movies could be like my number 1, I feel like. And this is maybe the surprise. Nobody else has it this high. I absolutely love this film, and I feel like nobody else does. One of the more recent ones, and this is Toy Story 4, which came out in 2019. It's the last Toy Story movie that they made, though there's talk of making a Toy Story 5, which is always weird, because I remember when Toy Story 2, after Toy Story 2, I thought, it felt like, I think there was like 10-year gap between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3. So after Toy Story 2, it felt like, oh, I guess there's no more Toy Story movies. They just did 2, and that was all we're going to get. And then like 10 years later, we get Toy Story 3, which was, I mean, that was great. Like, I was so excited for Toy Story 3 because anytime you go away from a franchise for that long, you get kind of excited for the nostalgia. And Toy Story 3 was a decent movie. Not one, actually my least favorite of Toy Stories. Still not a bad one. So I was a little, at Toy Story 3, I was actually a little, like, and it was definitely like, that was the last one. After Toy Story 3, everybody said, oh, that was a great ending to the Toy Story franchise. And I wasn't expecting any more. I thought, yeah, that was a good ending to the franchise, you know. Probably don't need more. And I don't know, I wasn't crazy about Toy Story 3 when I first saw it in the theater. So I thought, it wasn't the greatest ending, but you know, I understand that that would be the ending of the franchise. And then it was a shock to me that when they said they're going to make a 4th one. And I remember thinking at the time, like, oh man, there's no way you can make a good 4th movie. Like, it's hard to make that many good movies in a franchise. And I thought, it's just, you know, it's one of those things when after you make so many sequels, sometimes you go, okay, maybe you should stop making sequels because it feels like you're just money grabbing right now. Because, you know, anytime you put a Toy Story movie out there, people are going to go see it. It's going to make money because of the, you know, first 3 are absolutely, you know, loved by the fandom. And so it's one of those things like Star Wars, you know, you throw out there. Certain franchises, anytime you throw a movie out there, people are going to go see it. And this is one of them. So I was kind of like, didn't really want to see Toy Story 4. And so I didn't see it in the theater, which is kind of surprising because I used to watch every Pixar movie in the theater. But I was kind of at the moment thinking Pixar wasn't that good because I feel like at that time, they made some duds right before that, and I wasn't crazy about Toy Story 3 at the time, so I was like, I don't know if I want to see another Toy Story. And so I actually caught it at my parents' house. They said, oh, it's I think my younger sister, you know, watched it with their daughter and my parents, and they said, oh yeah, it's a pretty good movie. And I'm like, okay. And so I was over at their house, and we watched Toy Story 4, and I was like, man, this is so good. Like, I was just like, wow, I was so wrong. I wish I would have seen it in theater, but yeah, it was way better than I ever expected it to be. Like I said, so I came in with not very high expectations. And this is a movie that everybody says they shouldn't have made. Everybody said they should have stopped at 3 and 4th was just unnecessary. And that it's the least favorite. Almost everybody that I've ever heard talk about Toy Story, the 4th one's their least favorite out of the series. And here I am, this is my 2nd favorite Toy Story movie. I actually like it better than original even. And Toy Story 3, which is, you know, maybe surprising, but I don't know. I've seen it many times. As soon as I saw it, I immediately went out and got the Blu-ray, and I've watched it several times since, and To me, it's absolutely hilarious movie. It's one of the funniest in the franchise, which they're all, got some really funny parts to it, and why it's so good. Of course, the characters are so good. That's why I think it's such a one of the best trilogy or franchises we've had, because of all the characters, of course, with Woody and Buzz, and then you had like Jesse and all that. And they're, I mean, absolutely incredible. And you got Mr. Potato Head and Rex and Sling Dog, whatever. I mean, so many good characters in here. And the comedy is very good. And this one had so many great moments. And I love the new characters they bring in. There's, I forget what his name is. It's Forky, I think. The actor's name is something Hale. Oh man, he is such a funny character. And when I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, this Forky character doesn't look that funny. And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh man, this is like a really great character. I love Forky because he's like this kind of naive character who doesn't understand the toy world because he's not really a toy, he's a fork. And, but absolutely hilarious. Some of the best lines in this, movie come from that character, and his, even his physical comedy reactions. Like, I love when he keeps trying to jump into the trash and the way he walks, because he has to kind of waddle, and it's just so funny how he just waddles towards the trash, and Woody keeps having to get him away from the trash. But I love, there's Bunny and Ducky, which is Keegan and Peele play, are very funny. Of course, they have great chemistry together, and they have some great moments. And then Kick Kaboom by Keanu Reeves does that, and that's a funny character, the Canadian Evel Knievel. So all the new characters are great. They're all funny. But it actually has an overall really good story, because Woody's, in the new environment, he's not the favorite toy anymore. He doesn't really get played that much. And he's trying to help Bonnie, this new girl that they're owned by. And kind of, it's not feeling a lot of self-worth, and what happens to a toy when they're not played with, and they kind of lose that self-worth. And then he meets, what's her name? Bo Peep, and kind of discovers this other world where toys get to be played out in the playgrounds, and they get to help other toys. And anyways, it's a really good story, I think, actually. And the ending, what really gets me is the ending is very emotional. Like, I had tears in my eyes when I first watched this movie. I don't want to spoil it, I guess, but there's something that happens at the end and they say a certain line, a famous line that just really resonated, and just like, wow, this really felt like the end of an era. Like when you watch it, like, because I have so many fond memories of watching Toy Story in 1995 when I was 11 or 12 years old, and now in my upper 30s, watching the fourth one. So much time has passed between, being 11, 12 and being in my upper 30s, 20 some years passed. And I'm watching it, just having all these great memories and emotions anyway. So I don't know, I absolutely love this. I think it's a good story. It's funny and has emotional into it. So it's number 3 on my list. Fight me if you want. That's what it is. Number 2 on my list has been one of my favorites all the time. One I saw in theater. It's kind of an earlier, I want to say, in Pixar, and that is Monsters Incorporated, which was directed by Pete Docter, the first one that he took over. And he's become probably the best, maybe the best director in Pixar, because he's directed so many great ones that win a lot of awards and Oscars and stuff. And I want to say this is like, it's within the first 5 movies that they made, like 3rd or 4th, I want to say. 4th or 5th, I should say, because it was like, Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, and then it was this one maybe, and then Finding Nemo or something in that line. So within the first 5 movies, so it's very early on. Yeah, absolutely loved it. I mean, obviously, I love the concept idea. That's what I love about these Pixar movies. Early on, they had so many great ideas. And this idea that, oh, there's this whole world, monster world, Monstropolis, whatever. And, this company called Monsters Incorporated. And the way they keep power is they get screams from kids, somehow powers their city. And so they have this company. And it's this idea of this, this world where they're just working, like any other, all the monsters have jobs, and this is just a, factory blue collar job or something. But though it's somewhat of a celebrity, I guess the scares are celebrities too. And because it's kind of a backwards world because it's monsters instead of humans, but it has kind of a human aspect to it, of course. So it mirrors the human world, but yet it has the funny, tidbits about what monsters are like. And, And so I love the idea that they, there's this whole thing of like, oh, there's a monster in the closet. That's a whole, thing, kids, are scared because there might be something in the closet or under the bed, And so they play on that with this idea that there are closets that they transport from Metropolis to the human world, and they go in to scare little kids, and they somehow get their screams into this tank, and they use it to power the city. Anyways, it's a really cool idea. I love it. And of course, two main characters, so great, Sully and Mike Wachowski. Or I always get that name wrong, but I think something like that. But great voice work by, of course, Billy Crystal is probably my favorite. And Mike Wachowski, whatever, is one of my favorite Pixar characters of all time. Absolutely hilarious. Definitely it's Billy Crystal. I mean, he throws in some singing in there, and very funny. And it was definitely felt like Billy Crystal really made that his character his own, and probably did some improvising because it just felt so Billy Crystal-like. But of course, Sully, absolutely fantastic, and I don't see his name here. John Goodman, yeah. John Goodman, always great voice work by him. And it's a funny premise of this human going to the monster world, and they're actually scared of humans because they're told that humans are dangerous or that they hold some kind of disease or something. I don't know. And so you don't be around humans. While, of course, humans are afraid of monsters. And so this little girl, Boo, they call her Boo because she's a little girl, and she's really cute. And what I love about it is how they bond, Sully and Boo really bond together, and he kind of takes over this kind of almost parent-like, figure over her, and they're trying to help her and protect her and try to hide her from the government and trying to get her back into the human world. And then there's this whole, whole plot of someone kind of, doing something kind of evil and against the rules and, unethical that they undiscovered in the company. And that all plays into it. But mostly it's about the bond between Sully and Boo. And that's what brings in the emotional aspect of it. I mean, it's a very funny movie. But then you really, I don't know, they do such a good job of you really feeling that connection between the two characters. And that's what I love, about those characters in this movie in total. And very good animation. I mean, the animation just, I mean, every Pixar movie, it seems like they push the boundaries. But the scene where at the end where they're getting chased by Randall, played by Steve Buscemi, and they have to go into the backstage where all the closet doors are, and there's all these closet doors moving around. I mean, still to this day, I watch that and just go, I don't know how they did that animation-wise, because this is incredible. Just how massive this like storage room, whatever it is, of these closet doors are, and they all have to be kind of different. So they have to design all these different doors, and that whole scene is so great, like them being chased and having to go through different doors. Really well choreographed, and a great climatic scene. It's just almost like a perfect story. Like it's another one like Toy Story, just a great script, paces very well, never gets boring. And then the very end is one of the most emotional endings to a movie I've ever seen. I remember first watching this, and again, kind of was brought a tear to my eye. What the scene is at the end. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Where he tries to get reconnected with Boo. And that look on his face, oh, so good. It's like really hits you in the heart. But yeah, just an absolutely amazing film. Monsters Incorporated, number 2 on my list. So if you've paid attention, maybe you know what number 1 is. But it is another Toy Story movie, and it is Toy Story 2. I put a number 1 on my list. Again, I went back and forth between this, Monsters Incorporated, Toy Story 4. I kind of was like, man, I don't know, I really love these movies. But I went with this one. Like I said, Toy Story is definitely the best franchise in the Pixar. There's been 4 of them, and they're going to make a 5th one. And they've all made tons of money. And I got all 4 of them on Blu-ray because I think they're all really good, absolutely fantastic. And so, yeah, again, this is a sequel to the first one. It kind of, you get back into these great characters, and it's a really, cool story where I think, you really evolve, the characters in kind of the Toy Story world where, what's it like for other toys living in other places. And we go into the toy barn, and we get to see all these different toys, like the Barbies and so forth. And that's really great. And then he finds out that Woody finds out he's like famous, and he meets all the, Jessie, the cowgirl, whatever, and the horse, and Pete, whatever, the mind, whatever guy. And this idea of like, is it more important to be, you know, played by a kid, but then the kid grows up and then you're kind of forgotten. So is that more important, or is it more important to have like some kind of legacy, you know? And he has a opportunity to be in a museum where a bunch of people will look at him, I guess. And there's the idea of like, what do you do when your kid grows up, you know, as a toy? Because a toy, you don't get older, and your whole existence is to be played with. That's what you kind of live for. And so what if you're not played with anymore? You know, what do you do as a toy? So it was really kind of an interesting idea to put in there. I really like that, and the decisions that Woody has to make. And again, really great characters brought in. I think Jessie the Cowgirl definitely was a great addition that's been throughout the movies after, and the shorts and all that, and very well done. The actress is really good that does her, which I'm forgetting at the moment. Cusack is her name. Does a really good job here, and like I said, it's. I think it's maybe the funniest out of the franchise, and I do love, as you see, I do love animation movies if they're funny. That makes them they need to be funny for me to really enjoy them. It's good to have some, you know, dramatic moments, for sure. You know, I do love that parts, but this has so many great moments. I always think of when I watch it in the theater. I remember dying laughing, like when they're in the toy car and Rex is running behind them, and Mr. Potato Head looks through the mirror, and you see Rex running behind, and it was the exact parody of Jurassic Park, like that. And I remember, because I saw Jurassic Park in theater, and I love that movie. I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, that's such a funny get. I think maybe that's one of them that I just laughed so much at. The other bit about Zurg, the other part I love is Buzz Lightyear's kind of journey as he meets another Buzz Lightyear who thinks he's the Buzz Lightyear. And so he has to, you know, oh no, this is what I was like before I realized that was just a toy. And then Zurg comes in, with Zurg is like the villain of the Buzz Lightyear world. And of course you get this, this great Star Wars parody in there. Again, absolutely hilarious. I die laughing. That's probably my favorite part of the whole movie, because I die laughing to this day every time I see that, you know, that reveal of Zurg, and him falling down the elevator shaft, and Buzz going, "Father," like so dramatically. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Anyways, but I just say it has some of the funniest moments ever. And the villain actually turns out to be pretty good. There's a good twist in there when you find out who the villain is, and good climatics, you know, chasing at the end. Like they always do a good job with that in a Toy Story movie. And I'll just say the scene that really puts us over is number one, because when I was looking at these movies and go, which one should I put number one? The scene that really sealed the deal was the Jessie Cowgirl song, When She Loved Me, which is sung by Sarah McLachlan, who's a really great singer. And it was obviously nominated for an Oscar for Best Song. I can't remember what it went against. It probably should have won. It is a really good song. It's one of the best songs like ever in animation or Pixar history. But that whole scene is such a really, I mean, it's a great song. I love the song. And I love the idea of, you know, her having this traumatic backstory that she's singing about, you know, that because she's against, you know, owners, you know, being a toy and having an owner. And then you find out why she's so against owners. And you find out that she was a toy that was owned by this little girl, but the little girl grew up and she was forgotten. So she has this bitterness towards, you know, the humans that, you know, that own toys, and never wants to go back into that. And so she explains it in the song, and the way they animate it with it's really sad music and absolutely amazing vocals by Sarah McLachlan here. But it's a very emotional moment in the movie that really puts it over the top for me as my favorite Pixar movies. Like, if it wasn't for that moment, maybe one of the other movies might have made it into number one. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, this got to be number one, because that's just an amazing moment. Amazing. Like I said, it's already, I think, the funniest movie in maybe even all Pixar, and definitely a Toy Story. And that's saying a lot, because there are a lot of funny ones out there. But the combination of the comedy and then that dramatic moment, so good. Every time I watch this movie, it's just so amazing. I remember first time seeing it and just absolutely loving it. And it still is one of my favorite movies of all time. and it is going to take the #1 spot for me here on Pixar. So yeah, that's my top 3 and my favorite movie in the Pixar. Hopefully it's not too surprising. I think that's a pretty favorite one of a lot of people. And yeah, so thank you for watching these videos and going on this journey with me as I go through all these Pixar movies. Like I said, I've been a fan since '95. And so I have a lot of nostalgia from Pixar and a lot of love for the movie company. You know, I don't think the movies have been very good lately. I hope they, I'm still hoping that they make some good ones. Who knows? But I can't take away, they've been so great in the past and had some of the greatest movies in animation history, in my opinion. And especially Toy Story is just absolute killer of a franchise. Anyway, so yeah, so thank you everybody watching this whole video series and commenting. I really appreciate that. And I really love you guys for, putting your own movies out there, what are your favorite Pixar movies. That's really cool to see and have that discussion. That's why I love doing these videos and these rankings and seeing other people, what they think. That's always interesting. And I get a little educated by what other people like, and I kind of get a sense of where I'm wrong and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, thank you. And thank you for watching this video. And thank you for liking it. And just thank you to all the subscribers who support the channel. I appreciate you all and I hope you have a good day.